Hi, friends. I'm glad you're here with me today because I have a special guest, and I'm very excited about my special guest. It is Jess Baldwin today. For those of you, hold on, there we go. For those of you, and in case we don't know who I am, even though that's there, we also have that. Uh, for those of you who do not know Jess, allow me to introduce Jess Baldwin. I'm going to tell you a little. So, the reason I'm going right to this all today, and I'm not fussing about anything else, is because I am not having a great morning and I didn't prepare anything really, but I did do my homework on Jess. So, that's what I'm ready to talk about today. So, that's what you're getting. I did a little like fangirl stalking, actually, of Jess. Wait, I'm gonna, there we go. Yeah, so I got a little obsessive on YouTube about Jess Baldwin. Because although I've read things that have come out of her brain and her typewriter, can you believe I just said typewriter? Out of her word processor, I've read things that she thinks, and I know who she is, but I hadn't really like fangirl stalked her as an artist until yesterday. And that was fun, people. I am here to tell you this woman sings herself off. She is a great singer. She's a beautiful voice, and she is a great singer and a great artist and a great songwriter. So let me introduce you to her. Jess Baldwin is a popular musics and voice specialist. She's a creativity coach and an indie soul singer-songwriter. That's what she's created for herself, indie soul, which I love and is so accurate. Throughout school, she sang soul, pop, jazz, music theater, alongside choral and classical music. After completing her master's in classical vocal pedagogy and performance, she attended her first CCM Institute in 2009, and she was eventually appointed to the faculty of the Institute in 2016. Her love for popular music in particular led to the creation of Singing in Popular Musics, a blog by and for voice teachers. If you have not been to that blog yet, just subscribe. It's awesome. If you're in the voice industry, you need to subscribe to Singing in Popular Musics. You just do. Right after grad school, she started her personal artistry walkabout after a teacher led her to the artist's way. It was the first of a nonstop string of books about creativity, coaching, psychology, productivity, and healing, all of which found their way into her teaching as well as her own artistry. While she still loves nerding out on vocal pedagogy and helping singers create the sounds they want, her true passion is in helping singer-artists connect to the why behind their voice, their songs, and their style, walking alongside them as they find their own path to artistic artistry, which I love a lot because, as you know, if you have watched me at all, you know I love to talk about helping our clients, because they are artists, helping them as artists find their artistic voice. Now, I'm going to say this more than once today, but I want to say that I do have a freebie today. So there's two things I want to say to you. One is that I have a freebie today, and if you put the word Jess in the comments on my page, so if you're watching this on another page or on YouTube, you will find it below. On another page, you'll have to go to my page to get this. But if you put Jess in the comments, you will get a link to Jess's really impressive. What is it, Jess? What is it called? What can I call it? She's sneaking in.
It was actually made for a showcase, so it's kind of a video showcase.
Video showcase. It's a video
To who I
showcase.
am and what I do.
It's who she is and what she does.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. If you see it, you're going to go, I need one of those. So it's really good. And if you put Jess in the comments, you'll get that. Or on YouTube, you will find that in the comments below. So let us bring Jess on so that we can. Wait, where is she? Oh, no, that was her. There we go. Hi, Jess.
Hello.
Welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm flustered, as we have discussed.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing I wanted to say. So before I said there were two things, there are two things. The other is if you have a comment or a question that you have for Jess Baldwin, I would love for you to put it in the comments. I will be the moderator as we as we go through this today. So, Jess, I'm so glad you could be here today, and this is bothering me. Can I put this here? How we go? No, no. I
Wherever
just
you want it to.
because you're having a great hair day, frankly, and
Let me do this. Let me adjust slightly.
what do,
Is
what
that
do
better?
we? There we
Give
go.
just
Now we got the great hair. We got the great logo. Are we all in? All right. All right. All right. Okay. Before we ask the questions that are for other people, I want the question that's for me, which is tell us about the new album
Ooh.
since
Well,
I've
the
been
first single
fangirling
is
you.
about to come out on April Fool's Day, and it's called April Fool. And I'll have a few singles, one a month, until the final release comes out, because that's our new model for releasing is singles first and then the album. So it is a collection of songs. It's like right between EP and album in terms of length. So it's like you could call it either one, I'm sure. But the songs were written during a period of um, well, doing a lot of like self discovery and healing from some religious trauma and developmental trauma. And so that's a lot of what the songs are about, are different topics around what that journey was like for me. And the style is indie soul. I'm sure you'll hear some jazz elements in there because soul and jazz are cousins. Um, and some chamber pop as well. So, like Sufjan Stevens, if you're familiar with Sufjan. So chamber pop is, if you're not familiar, it's like it's like sort of pop flavored, but with lots of orchestration. So I found that when I got into the production elements of the album, I liked, on some of the songs anyway, a more dense orchestration for what was going on, and then others were a little more simple. So I'm really excited about it, that it is happening and coming out, particularly because it took a hot minute for me to get there, which you wouldn't think would take so long. But like recording an album, writing songs in particular, having an identity, having things to say, at least for me, were all difficult things because of the religious and developmental trauma. So my recovery and my songwriting were very much hand in hand experiences. So the more I healed, the more I could write and feel comfortable about being a separate self in the world who had something to say, and not constantly being afraid of what that thing that I had to say was going to do. So it kept me more silent for a long time. And now there gets to be an album. So here it comes, y'all. It's happening. April
So that's
1st.
so interesting to me. So you had to like learn to not edit yourself. Did you even know you were editing yourself?
I I probably wouldn't have said the word editing myself. Like I think earlier in my life, I probably would have considered that like being kind or being thoughtful or protecting someone or things that had to do with just being a good nice person. That you don't say anything that might even possibly hurt someone's feelings or um not always be positive. I mean, there were just a lot of messages I had taken away about what it meant to, yeah, have anything to say. And, some of the deeper stuff was like, um, man, in my early recovery, I looked back on some journals and I was like, holy cow. It was like right after grad school. Like I was reading The Artist's Way for the first time. And I actually wrote down something like, I'm afraid God will think it's selfish if I pursue my art. If I wasn't using my life for what at that time I apparently had in mind for, what God considered good or what you did as a religious person. So That was some of the beginning of that. So using my voice was more about like being an instrument for other people, other things, other composers, other causes, other, it was not necessarily an instrument for myself. And so that took a while to get through that journey and really become a separate self. And it was interesting. Part of the album was there was a song called Wild where I was grappling with this feeling of letting myself be myself, but the fear that that was like letting out a wild animal that was going to hurt people. And so the song is called Wild. And so I was looking up synonyms in the thesaurus for self. And, selfish is obviously a connected word. And I had this shift where I realized that, like, as an artist, if we want to be an artist, we have to have a self. We have to have a clear self that has preferences, that says they don't like things just as much as they do like things, um, and draws boundaries. And so the word selfish suddenly became something that was about having a self, like allowing myself to be more selfish, meant something very different than it did when I was in my youth, in my early 20s. So that was an interesting part of the journey.
Which probably, I love to say truth lies in irony and or in paradox. Truth lies in paradox. Oh, by the way, Sarah Campbell's here. She says hi to you.
Hi, Sarah.
The famous Sarah Campbell. Um, I went to a songwriter workshop in Nashville once, and one of the clinicians who was a songwriter said, the more intimate your lyrics are, the more universal their appeal.
Mm-hmm.
And that popped into my head as you were talking because of what you're talking about in being selfish.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know
Yeah,
what
and
that
the more
self
specific
is.
too.
Sorry, go ahead.
Isn't that so interesting? Isn't and the more specific as well, the more specific the lyrics are. Like, you think if you tell your individual story that somehow it's gonna, like, leave some people out in terms of them getting the song, but interestingly, when humans hear a really specific story, they're actually quite good at being able to extract what is important for them or how it relates to their story, even if the details are different, which is interesting. It gives you more freedom to really tell your story instead of feeling like you have to make it generic.
Yeah. Yeah, because generic isn't that appealing, really.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring this up. So Sarah Campbell loved that. She loved that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Self-ish. Sarah Campbell, who's also a fabulous singer. So when you were in college, now I know the answer to this, but I want to hear what you say in your amazing way of saying things. But in college, do you feel that you were a performance major? Am I right about that? Yeah,
Mhm.
you were.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel that your performance major prepared you to be a performing artist in that way?
No. Not in a way where I was yeah, there wasn't really any me yeah, like me and my identity and myself being, I don't know, having a space. And I want to like preface and say I'm sure that was happening to some degree, that like my teachers were picking songs for me based on how they perceived me and how they wanted me and my personality to show up in the space.
Right.
Um, so, but there still wasn't, because so often in classical realms, music is picked for people and you're focusing a lot on the composer and their intent. It just is not necessarily a space where the singer as artist is put in the forefront in terms of intent and programming and song picking and all sorts of stuff. So that was not something that really, it definitely wasn't overt enough for me to benefit from it and to know how to continue moving forward with it. But I find that to be true for many people. You and I both work with a lot of recovering classical singers, sometimes we can call them,
Yeah.
people who've been in
Yeah.
academic spaces.
Yeah.
And that does seem to be a theme, that they really didn't have the experience of being asked like who they were and what they wanted to sing and how they wanted to move forward with their artistry. They often felt like the right thing to do was to figure out how to make themselves fit into whatever the kind of classical agenda
Yeah. Yeah.
was
Well,
at their particular school.
yeah. Well, in classical music, the performer is a vehicle for the creative, who is the composer, right? So you really, in a sense, you really sort of do need to make yourself fit in, at least to a certain degree. It's not the same as popular music, where you are the creative and the interpreter.
Right. And even if you're doing cover songs, unless it's a space where specifically you are supposed to be doing the cover songs
Right.
as closely to the original as possible, the expectation, as you know, is that you make it your own. It should be different. It's so that your personality and your voice really come through and not sound like the original.
Right. Right. Although, that being said, cover bands, not cover bands, tribute bands are huge right now. So I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
And that's its own thing. And in those spaces, that's what you're doing and, you're diving into it. But as an original artist, mm-mm. If we do a cover song, it better not sound just like the original. It better sound like us.
And it better sound like us, yeah. And so to sound like, so if I'm saying, in order to sound like me, right, I have to know who me is, or at least I have to know what I want to do with it. Like, what am I doing up there on the stage? What am I trying to do? Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so if I'm learning about that, and I was, as you can tell, I'm responding to your class, which I'm going to ask you to talk about in a little bit, but because it's incredible, it's powerful, and it's so important. So if I'm performing, but I don't know who I am, that's holding me back, right? It's holding me back
Yeah.
both in terms of the actual performance that I'm participating in, but also in terms of finding the people who would connect with me as an artist, right? Or it's building my following in crasser terms, or
Yeah.
in
Yeah. That's right.
less heartfelt terms, right? But when you say you're building an audience or you're building your following, that's really what you're saying, right? Is you're finding the people who are literally and figuratively, metaphorically, in harmony with your musical message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
So if I can,
Yeah.
so it's important, really. I want you to talk about how and why that's important.
Yeah. I think it's incredibly important. And I find that people who struggle a little bit, again, often if they've been sort of an instrument for someone else's vision, um, and or if they've been in spaces where they didn't feel like it was okay to have their own voice, where they didn't feel like it was okay to have preferences, they didn't feel like it was okay to have boundaries or to say no to things, it can really be difficult to step into this work. It takes some healing on multiple levels to be able to do that stuff. But I mean, if we think about just on a human interaction level, friends, let's just start with friendships. When you're trying to create friendships with people, the friendships that feel the best are the ones where you have allowed yourself to be the most seen. Each part of you, the things that you are afraid to tell other people, the things that you're afraid are ugly, the things that you're worried someone else won't get about you. And when you are open and honest with someone and they're like, yeah, that's what I want. I want a friend like you. Then it's like, oh, here I am, right? So those are great connections when we're real and we allow not just like the nice parts of ourselves to be out there all the time, but the things we complain about and the stuff that makes us mad, right? Those things too. When people can be in those spaces with us, that's really powerful and important. And when someone is deciding about the artists that they want to follow and get invested in, often they're looking for the same things. They're not generally looking for an artist who is just like nice about everything and is sort of like blandly having not opinions about all the things. We tend to be really drawn to artists who are very clear about who they are, how
Yeah.
they feel, what they have to say, including what they don't like
Yeah.
and what makes them upset, what they're passionate about, because there's something in that person that really appeals to us. It like touches something about who we are and what's important to us as well. It's connecting with our truth. And so when we are as artists trying to build an audience, we get sometimes we're like, "Ooh, I don't like, marketing and business." And I believe me, I get it. But the whole point of all of that stuff when we're trying to build a following is that we're trying to connect with other human beings through the vehicles that we have to do that. And so if you're connecting to other human beings in social media, email, whatever, what you are trying to do is to like put forth the stuff that makes you you, the opinions you have about things, right? The stuff that's important to you, your persona, even preferences like what you like to wear or other artists that you like to listen to or your favorite colors. Or, I mean, you don't have to go, my favorite color is purple, but you might put purple on your stuff, like all of those things let people know whether they want to connect with you and whether they want to come to your gig. Because honestly, life is too busy for
Right.
people to see a kind of a beige person and make a decision about whether they want to go see them. Like if you're not putting the stuff out there that lets them know whether they'd like to make a decision to come see you, they're just going to scroll right past. Like you have to be clear about who you are and what you're doing and what you like and your music. And then that lets them make a decision. Because as much as we think they're going to take the time to like sift through all the teeny tiny little details of our social media, our emails, and maybe come to some decisions about what they want, like we've got to be clear and out there and forward about who we are and what we think and what we want our music to do so that we can get the people in the room. And that's really what we want. We want the people in the room. We want the right people in the room, the people who
Right.
really get us, right? And that we let them know we get them. And then we can do the thing that we've loved all along, which is the actual music singing part.
Right. And
But that
connecting.
getting people in the room really requires that we show up, that we have clear qualities and likes, dislikes, and ways of operating in the world.
Which can be really scary.
Yeah, because we get over focused on the people who are going to decide they don't like us, rather than focusing on how much better it's going to be that the people who do like us and get us are going to be the only people there.
Yes. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have an answer for this. Wait a minute. I have to say this again. In case if you just showed up and you want to see the very cool, whoops, that's not what I want. Nope. And you want to see the very cool video montage promo reel that Jess has, which is really cool. And if you are a performing artist at all, you should see this because it's amazing. Except I'd have to find it. There we go. Put Jess eventually. Put Jess in the comments or find the link below if you're on YouTube. All right. My question. Okay. So I waited tables for years and years and years. I'm using this as an analogy. And I am a pretty outgoing person and I would interact with people and I was fairly good at my job because I was good at manipulating the people in the kitchen to give me what I wanted. And so I was pretty good at my job and I liked interacting with people and people were nice to me 95% of the time. And then there'd be that one table where nothing went right or they were just mean or they'd say something, right? And even though I'd had these positive interactions all day, that one table would stick in my head. That one nasty comment that the dad made, you know? And I
Yeah.
find that to be true for myself in this in this professional space I'm in now as well. And when I was a performing artist, that was absolutely the case. I was, that one mean dad's comment would just erase all of the other niceness. And I know I'm not the first person to say this to you. I'm sure you deal with this in your class. That's just the concept of
Yep.
the scariness, that it's scary.
It is scary. Yep. And, in myself as well as a human being, that it's, if we've had experiences where, number one, nobody likes having someone be mean to them. I don't care who you are. But there are some of us who, when that happens, because of different circumstances that we might have had in our life, we may have a tendency to receive that as a reflection of ourselves instead of a reflection of that person. And then when we think of that as a reflection of ourselves, then we get super spun out about how we should have done something differently, rather than, some people are able to have the response where they just go, that's just a sad, mad person. That doesn't have anything to do with me. And sometimes we just have to pretend in moments where we are totally trying to take it personally, that we don't have to do that, right? And to just remember those people who are able to have those responses and do some in our head going, that's not me. That's that person. That has zero to do with me.
Yeah.
Um, and to recognize that depending on what happens in your nervous system and what happens to you emotionally when you're hit with something like that, that you will probably experience some things like guilt or shame, right? There might be some emotions that come up for you that you interpret as affirmations of the fact that it's your fault or that you should have done it differently.
Oh, yeah.
Rather than just, and we can learn to recognize like, oh, no, I might feel guilty right now, but that doesn't mean I actually did something badly or wrong, right? I might feel they're trying to shame me right now about that thing, but that doesn't mean I actually did anything to warrant that.
Right.
And that can take some work and time to really go through those spaces. In a singer's, that can be things like, oh, someone decided they didn't like the quality of my voice, or they didn't like the outfit I had on, or they didn't like how I wore my hair, or they didn't like the words that I sang in that song, or they don't like that I'm passionate about this particular cause, or, right? We can go down the list of stuff that people can complain about.
Yeah.
About
And
who we are
it just takes practice, right? It takes practice. You can't just will yourself into it. You have to practice yourself into it, into being able to reframe and let people own their own stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
And that can be a hard thing to do when we're like an open person, who's trying to be open to and considerate of other people's feelings and opinions and stuff. Sometimes there is a pendulum swinging too far in the other direction where we take on things that aren't actually ours to take on.
Yeah, that's true.
And it can be hard, hard to find that line.
And I want you to talk about your class, because I think we have been talking about, you go correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we've been talking about the kind of things that you embrace and work through and work with in your True Colors class, correct? Yes?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Like if I'm a performing artist, why am I wanting to take your class?
Probably because you are having some experiences where you're feeling a little invisible. You're feeling a little like, when you hear someone else describe what you do to someone else, you're like, man, they really don't quite get what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Or you're not sure how to explain yourself on your social media or maybe on some posters that you're putting together. Or maybe your songs, you feel like you're not sure how to like really show up in your songs as you're writing them in a way that feels good, or the style that you're doing, you feel like you're kind of pandering to more people, or feeling like you're having to do a lot of styles just to keep people happy. So those are some different reasons why people can show up in the class. I do have a decent amount of recovering classical singers who will show up as well, who, they're performers and they are discovering for the first time that they don't actually want to sing classical music, and they are kind of in beginning stages of even figuring out what genre they belong in, or what genre they want to pursue, and why, and how to move forward in that. So those are different reasons why people show up for the class when they're performers, and some of them are in the beginning stages as well of performing. In general, it's not like the super duper professional performers, because in most cases they've already got this stuff figured out. So this is generally like beginning and intermediate performers when it comes to the kind of performing they're doing. Like even classical performers who had like very serious professional careers as classical performers, they're in more beginning stages of being a different kind of performer, a different genre performer, right? So those are the people who are there, and they would want to be there in part because they want to show up more clearly. They want people to have a better idea of what they do before they get there. They want their personality to shine through better in their songwriting and in the way that they show up on stage. They want to feel clear about their visual identity. Like, what clothes do I want to wear? It's interesting how many will have really not be clear about how they visually want to show up in the world. With how they are on stage or on social media, that stuff's not apparent to them. They want their audience to really connect with them. Like, they want to get clear about who they want to come to their gigs. Who do you want your friends to be, rather than shifting mindset from who they're afraid of losing to who they want to gain, like who they actually want to have around and how they want to interact with them. So these are all questions that we ask. We do go through a bunch of exercises on the first day to just really get them thinking about who they are, what brings them joy, what do they love, who their influences are, and start putting those things together into a project, a video project that they share and get feedback about from the rest of the group, so that they can see if they are in fact coming through the way that they're trying to come through.
Right.
Put together a bio and read that, so that they can, like someone who was going to come to their gig would read, so that they can just, get feedback on whether the bio matched the performance, matched the video project. Putting together Pinterest boards with different visual inspirations is surprising to me and Julie, who's the other person who teaches this with me, Julie Dean. That visual project is incredibly powerful.
I was going to say, that sounds really fun and good.
Yeah, like people who will be confused about like, I don't know, who I am or how I sound or what I want or what genre I'm doing. Suddenly, they put together the visual stuff and things will really start to lock into place for them in a way. And they feel more confident about saying, I don't like this color, or I don't like this outfit, than they will about saying, I don't want to sing this song. I don't want to perform in that venue. It's interesting how, they find a place where they can put forth a boundary and an opinion, and then suddenly it gives them some more confidence about doing that in other spaces.
That makes total sense. I have to share this comment because this is whoopsie. Okay, not what I meant to do. I am just not. It is. See what I mean? Just this is friends. This has been happening to me all morning. Okay. So this is not what we want. Okay, I'm just going to read it out loud. That was Wendy, that beautiful picture of
Hi, Wendy.
With all kinds of attitude, which I love that picture. Anyway, so I'll just read it. So Wendy says, I am going through therapy now at 66 and still go in and out of that mindset. People pleasers need to learn to be true to themselves first. And she's in response to what you said about the finding the one thing and going from there, like finding clarity with one element. She says it sounds like a good, it would be great for my students who say, I don't know. Because we all have students like that too. Anyway.
Yeah. And it's okay we will all have spaces of not knowing about different things. And that's all right. It's not like we feel certain 100% of the time. And the class is not meant to pressure everyone to feel like they have to know the answers, but just that it's okay to keep pursuing them, and that the answers are not going to come from other people. They really are going to come from you. So the feeling that many folks have that they're supposed to find the answers from someone else. That might be a teacher, that might be a coach, that might be someone in their band, it might be a parent, right? There's lots of places where I feel like they're supposed to look for answers outside of themselves, that sitting with the not knowing for a period will eventually turn into some clarity about what you actually want and what you actually have to say. And the longer you keep trying to find that answer from someone else, the longer you just delay finding your answers about what you need and what you want to do with your voice and your music.
There it is. The scary thing about art, right?
Yeah.
To be an artist, you have to be responsible. And I mean, because in the popular realm, we have to deal with that all the time, right? You have to make the
Yeah.
decision about how you want to sound, which is great because it's very free and fun and creative, but it's also scary because you are now responsible for that decision that you have made.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's the biggest fear that people have, is that even if they are resentful of whoever has gotten in their way in the past, be that academia or a parent or a religious institution or whatever, like even if no matter who they're resentful to about the fact that there's been limitations, when it finally comes down to the moment where they realize, oh, this is in my hands now, I have to be responsible for this, it can be pretty darn scary. Because now they realize that whatever happens as a result of their choice, they can't blame on anyone else anymore. And yeah, it's a tough place to be. And some people get stuck there and they decide to go back to having someone else tell them what to do because that's just not something we want to deal with. But my hope is people move through it because it's also very empowering to show up in the world. And even when there are people who are like, I don't really dig what you do, um, it's still, there are people who do.
Go
And
by,
having
right?
that connection is right, that's exactly right. Having the connection with people who get what you're doing, there's nothing like it, and knowing that they're connecting with you because you truly showed up, that's the best kind of fan, you know? It's the
Yeah.
best kind of friend. It's the best kind of human connection of any kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna wrap it up, and I want people to know where you have is this class. This class is coming up, right?
It is coming up March 29th, so a week and a day from today, we start the first, so it's a 3-week course,
Do you
and
still
we
have
start on
room?
March 20th. We do have a few spaces left, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
and I would love to see anyone who wants to be in that space and do some of that work because man, it's rewarding. And Julie, the person who teaches with me, is fantastic. She and I came to the CCM Institute the first year together in 2009 and went every year since. So we were brought on faculty at the same time and have been on similar journeys. She found her voice in bluegrass music and old time country, and that's what she's been doing. Learned how to play guitar, starting in her late
Awesome.
30s, and that's now her instrument and loves it. And so we love helping people move through some of the stuff, and we get it. We've been through it. We know what it's like to go through those experiences. So she teaches that with me as well.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And they find the
Yeah.
information at your where is it? There? Right? No, I can't do it. I
Yeah.
can't. You can if you point. Oh, the other side.
Oh.
There you go. There's
Da-da-da-da-da.
the logo.
Oh my
There
gosh.
it is. So that's where they can find the information, though, right?
Yeah, truecolorsvoiceandartist.com. That is the website. And yes, so it's called Clarify Your Artist Identity. And it's there on that website. Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for letting me talk about that, Meredith, and let me talk about my album. And I'm just so pleased to be here, very honored to be here. I've been stalking you as a teacher for a long time, and of course, invited you to be on my blog. So if you all go to singingandpopularmusics.com, you'll see Meredith's writing as well, because she's been doing such great stuff for popular music singers and
Thank you.
teachers who work with popular music singers for a long time. Her neurovocal method is just raved about by so many people that I know. So it's
Oh,
a big
thank
honor
you.
to be in here. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Yeah, that blog, Singing in Popular Music, has some really incredible people on it. Wendy Jones is on, and Dr. Dan, and I'm blanking. Who else is on there? And you, obviously.
Yeah, Kat Reiner, Julie Dean, Marcel Gauvin, Mark Baxter, Robert Edwin. Oh my gosh, we're going to forget some. Kelly Hoppenjans from Belmont, Kate Paradise from Belmont. Um, Judy Rodman from
Oh, Judy
Nashville.
Rodman. We love Judy Rodman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sad I'm
So
not
many
remembering
great
all the
people
names.
on that blog. Yeah.
Star-studded.
Star-studded. It's the star-studded blog. Yeah. And it will come right to your inbox. So thank you so much for making time to be here with me today, Jess. It was
Thank you, Meredith.
so interesting, so inspiring. Your class sounds really exciting. And if anybody's watching this, and you just should just see if you can get one of those last few spaces in Jess's class, because it sounds
I
like
would
a
love it. I would love to meet
life-changing
you.
opportunity. It really does.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I mean, at the end of it, you never know when you start a new product what it's gonna be like, but every time we're done, everyone's like,
Yeah.
"We have to be done? We
Yeah.
need to stay in contact." So it's a pretty powerful
Yeah.
experience, that people are having, and I love it. It is a life-giving thing for me as a coach as well.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. So anyway, I'm glad you're offering that to people, and I hope everybody has a great time in it. And
Thank
thanks so
you.
much for being here with me today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Mhm.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.